And welcome. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Economic Vitality Committee for Thursday, February 17th. It's an exciting day to be alive in the gorgeous Tri-Valley. Look forward to everyone's input today. So, Miss Lisa, would you like to start us off? That's our wonderful call to order. Now, Lisa, I don't think you have before, but I thought you might actually like to give us the Pledge of Allegiance today.
Absolutely.
Good.
I will. Okay, so we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance first.
All right.
Okay. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. All right, roll call.
Okay, here we go. Brian Wilson.
Present.
Daniel Watson.
Here.
Ellen Penske.
Here.
Councilmember Balch.
Present.
Board Member Kelly McCaughey.
Here.
Michael Lee. Roderick O'Brien.
Here.
Sharif Madavi.
Here.
Steve Baker.
Here.
Steve McCoy Thompson.
Here.
Steve Van Dorn.
Here.
Tiffany Cadret.
Present.
Tracy Farhad.
Here.
And Will Dorlick.
Here.
Great, we have a quorum. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Lisa. And do we have any agenda amendments that we need to make today?
No agenda amendments by staff.
Great. Okay, it's good to hear that. Want to start off with the consent calendar, but before we get started, I just wanted to say thank you, everybody, for being on the call. Thanks for jumping in for February. We're never sure when, and the most important items will come forward, but what I do want to say is because of this committee's work, suggestions were taken to the council, items were brought forward, and today's agenda item is because of the work of this committee. So keep it up, keep having suggestions, keep coming up with your opinions. And in fact, please do have one. And for those quiet folks who just like to listen every once in a while, you might just hear me say, hey, Rod, how do you feel about that today? So just get ready, and I'll try to mention your name first, so it gives you a whole 10 seconds to unmute yourself before we go into the question. But anyway, I'm excited about the fact that we've got something that had to be brought back in depth today on the agenda. So why don't we start with just approving consent calendar for approving minutes of January. So I hope everybody has had a chance to read and look those over. And
I move for approval.
thank you, Steve.
Second.
And Steve Baker. We got a Steve Van Dorn and Steve Baker, first and second. All on approval, say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
And any abstentions? Should have all been there, should have all read. Great. All right, we've got the minutes and we can keep going on for that. But I want to see if there's any public comment. Lisa, do we have anybody from the public on the phone today?
We do not have anyone viewing the meeting.
Okay. Well, that's a shame. I was ready for that. All right, so we're going to get to public hearings and other matters. My favorite part, Council Member Jack.
Well, hello, good morning, everyone. I hope you're doing well. I try to be brief because it seems like the council is meeting more regularly than anything else lately. So you probably know we have 5 meetings in February. So apparently the shortest month of the year, we've chosen to be the busiest. So thank you, staff, because people don't understand the timeline you have to notice meetings puts an incredible burden on them. So Ms. Ott and team, thank you. So I just try to go incrementally. So since the January EDC meeting, council started off with the first meeting on February 1st. We are working on the rebuilding of West Las Positas, as former Mayor Thorne called it, the best roller coaster in our community. So please know this is a problem, right? We've got to rebuild the entire roadway. The bike ped committee is upset. Everyone's upset. but the roadway is going to be $10 million and we're only 3 million in. So we have some time to figure this out, unfortunately. But we are underway. The other big thing on the agenda, or just kind of going through, is the water efficient landscapes. I know we are enjoying the weather right now, but please don't be upset at me in August when we're trying to talk about water for life safety only, right? So the drought is still in effect. We still have problems. And so what the city did is it enhanced our water efficient landscape conversion of your lawn rebate. Zone 7 has one and the city of Pleasanton has one on top of it. The conversion rebate now requires sustainability. So you cannot just spray your lawn with herbicide and pesticides, et cetera. You've actually got to do it in a green way in line with our CAP 2.0 plan, which was a great tie-in and dovetail into the CAP 2.0. We then completed out the downtown Parklet grant program, as Ms. Tracy said. And so that came from this group, right? How much, what to do, all of that. There was discussion about non-downtown businesses, and obviously that's for later today. And then probably everyone knows that the housing element has had a little bit of a dribble trying to get started by the council, just because we've got both Councilmember Testa and I live within 500 feet of some sites, but we were able to get that going on a little bit later in the month, but we talked about it in early February. And then February 3rd, kind of our second meeting, we're talking about districts, and I'll just mention now, but I'm going to end it as well. So at the February 3rd meeting, there were 13 maps that came forward, 6 from the demographer, 7 from the community. From that meeting on the 3rd, the council advanced, and I'll just call it advanced, but no map is eliminated. I should just be very clear. But the council kind of denoted that there were 4 maps that seemed to do a nice job of what the council was thinking. And so with comments to the demographer. So the demographer has come back with revisions to each of those 4 maps. Just in case you want to watch this tape, the 4 maps advanced by council as maps they liked were green, red, orange, and the Combs map. And the revised versions of each of those are now the lime, currant, cherry, and tangerine. I didn't come up with the names. So those are the current 4 additional maps. And then on February 8th, the council did work through the housing element. And so just to be very clear with everyone, the housing element is an extremely long process. We are not done. So don't take it away that this is the site selection. The council advanced approximately 5,030 units, and I don't have the exact number because community development is working on just finalizing the list based on all the adjustments council did. But that's approximately 160% of the housing sites that we need for our ultimate submission to HCD. So what the council is doing now is it's taking 160%, 5,000 units, advancing it to go through an environmental EIR process to evaluate traffic and all of the impacts. And then after that, they will be selecting the final list. So there's quite a lot of angst about a couple of sites, Donlin, the downtown Pleasanton Unified School District site itself, and a few others around town, including the mall. So you should watch the meeting. It is a big meeting at 5.5 hours, but the council did get through it. And then just recently this week, the council on the 15th of February did the CAP 2.0 plan on consent, just because we're been a little bit crazy, but that was advanced. So the CAP 2.0 is there. And now the council and staff will be working on basically ordinances to do that. And this group back last year talked about incentive-based advancements for the CAP 2.0 versus a stick, and that was carried through. I want to make sure that that's a message everyone understands. It will be trying to be incentive-based on a lot of things. We also are doing approximately, or did $70,000 for the Burnell, Nevada traffic signal. And once that matters more for the Irby Ranch, Sunflower Hill people who are interested in that area of town, wondering why that roadway has not opened up yet. That's because we've had to get the traffic signal on the other side before we could open up the roadway. So that's going forward. The debt management policy of the city got approved, just in case you are a finance wonk like Mr. Baker and I. Just some process on debt financing. And then I'll just mention or throw out that Rotary was declared Rotary Month in Pleasanton for February. So congratulations and thank you to supporting our community, to all the Rotarians. And then we moved on to the Spartorno project. If you might know, this is kind of the little project on the wedge between Happy Valley Road. I saw Pam smile, and Calippi on the way out to the golf course. The proposal is, I think, 20 houses, I think it was, or 22, maybe it was 22. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, 22 residential units. If you want to watch the meeting, I had to recuse. My aunt and uncle do live next door to the project, and they are customers of mine, interestingly enough. So it was an indirect source of income conflict. So I'm out. But they're very sustainable housing units. So people might be interested to see what a design can look like when you really take sustainability as your principal architectural feature, I should say, versus a secondary thought. So I'm impressed with what they've come forward. And then Weekend on Main closure, which got some press yesterday or today. So the council heard, and Ms. Ott's here and presented it, but the council heard quite loud and clear that Weekend on Main is a desired event. The question is, how much can our downtown sustain it between our retailers and our restaurant groups, right? And I think I said, I expected it to be stepping stones, but they were out of Legos because it was a pretty small step in my opinion. But the council did decide to go ahead and close one weekend a month, beginning in May through December, the first weekend of the month. So it will be very close to, and I don't want to mischaracterize, but like the first Wednesdays meet Weekend on Main. So PDA is going to program it. And we're going to do it. There was quite a bit of discussion about two weekends a month or more. I think the council understands there's desire for that. We have realities on the ground that are difficult to make that probably successful, and we're cautious. And maybe government's a little bit too cautious, but we're going slow together, I guess, versus fast alone. So to quote Mr. Fialo in his departure. And then we rounded out with our annual report and audit for that. I will also just take a quick second to mention, like I said at the beginning, so yesterday was the State of Pleasanton Chamber. Mr. Van Doren's here, and I saw a lot of you there. Miss Kim Diamani is now our new chair. Seeing her sworn in, she was beaming. I mean beaming. If you guys want to go, like, she was beaming. And then I just want to put a little thanks to Mr. Baker, who was awarded an award for his contribution to the chamber. He's quite a generous man with his time. If you ever had a chance to talk to him, he's a member of this group. I see him, he's kind of being modest down there in my square, but he truly helped out the chamber, was recognized for it. And, I just want to make sure people know everyone contributes, but Mr. Baker, thank you so much for saving the chamber and helping out so much. So real big congratulations there.
Thank you, Jack.
And then the council and Ms. Adamos and I were able to go out to watch innovation. So International Creativity and Innovation Day was yesterday. I didn't know, I wasn't astute enough to know that, but Starship Technologies is doing a robot delivery service out of the Lucky's, California on Hop Yard and Las Positas, if you haven't been down there. So the Val Vista neighborhood, as well as the Parkside neighborhood, will receive the ability to have a robot deliver their groceries, approximately 4 bags of groceries. I thought it was like, new and innovative. And then I look on their website, they are like really popular. It's like there's a whole cult following of these robots. So very exciting to see that in Pleasanton, very exciting to see that on our streets. And when I talked to them after staff had left, they were very complimentary of Mr. Tassano and Ms. Clark and the Community Development Department, as well as Lisa here, because the staff, I did nothing. The staff really helped them roll that out for our community, right? So if you're maybe not able to get to the store, you can just have your groceries show up and pick the time, and it's 0 carbon footprint. I know there's charging electricity, but you're not driving a car or having Instacart kind of thing. And so, it's a pilot and we'll see where we go. And then lastly, I do want to say 2 more things. Sorry, Tracy. City Council's last meeting in February is next Thursday, the 24th, and that is districts. So if you're thinking about weighing in on where the district should be and how it shapes our community, there are, I think there are 18 maps now, because there were the original 13 plus 4 more, 14, 15, 16, 17, and then 1 more from a public that came in. So there are 18 maps out there for people to consider. And please take a minute, write an email. I personally think it's one of those things that will dramatically affect the course of Pleasanton just by the nature of it. And frankly, hopefully we rise above to think of the community in holistic ideas. And I think we will. And then lastly, Taste Tri-Valley Restaurant Week begins tomorrow. And I'm done.
Thank you for that plug, Jack. Appreciate that. I think with another meeting yet to come for the City Council, I'm surprised you're even here today. I appreciate that. And so everybody get your sleep, get your rest, but get your energy, your passion going. A lot of great subjects to talk about, really key to the community. So thank you, Councilmember Balch. Appreciate that. So next up, we've got a great presentation from Lisa, and just wanted to let you know she's going to provide a review of this outdoor dining installation grant program. This is different than what we talked about in January. So this is in addition to, and after she presents, then we'll have comments from the EVC, and then we'll be looking for a motion to approve the information as presented. So Lisa, why don't you take it away?
Great, thank you, Tracy. Can you see my screen
Yes.
with the
Yes.
presentation? Perfect, thank you for confirming. Okay, so as Tracy mentioned, at our last meeting, as also Councilmember Balch mentioned, at our last meeting, we brought to you the Downtown Parklet grant program, and that was a direction from City Council after they considered and approved the Downtown Parklet program. And so I wanted to just bring this to your attention. So at the February 1st meeting, the City Council approved the Downtown Parklet grant program as outlined and as recommended by the EVC. And then part of the EVC's recommendation was to take a look at restaurants outside of the downtown. And so we were directed by City Council to do some research and look at how we can do something similar outside of the downtown. And so what we've done is drafted an outdoor dining installation grant program, which is similar in that it provides financial assistance to businesses interested in installing a semi-permanent outdoor area for dining. So I wanted to just mention here the $250,000 that was approved by council for the Downtown Parklet grant program is coming out of the $3 million special fund. And as you can see on this slide, over 1.3 million was provided in loans to 115 businesses. Again, we have the 250 approved for the downtown grant program. And then last Tuesday, the City Council approved 100,000 for the Weekends on Main program. And that's all coming out of the $3 million special fund. So we are recommending for the outdoor dining installation grant program that we allocate up to 250,000, and that would be part of the $3 million to fund this grant program. So I'll go ahead and get into the details of the grant program. So, and to preface before I do that, we do have an existing, it's similar to the Parklet grant program in that it's the installation of an outdoor eating area. We do have existing approval processes for that. And so I'll go ahead and go into that. But for what we're looking from the EVC this morning is your input on the grant program. So as we've outlined the grant program, it is similar in that we will reimburse eligible expenses related to the design and installation of an outdoor eating area. The grant amount would be up to 50% of the total cost, not to exceed $10,000, which is the same amount that we established for the Downtown Parklet grant program. And then again, as mentioned, up to not to exceed 250,000 in total funds. For the program availability, we are looking at April 1st, where we would begin to accept applications. And then the program, we're suggesting that we end it after 1 year on April 1st, 2023, or until the total funds have been exhausted or a date determined by the City Council. We will be bringing this item to the City Council for consideration at its March 15th meeting. And so that is why we are looking for input from the EVC. Similar to the Downtown Parklet Grant Program, these are the eligibility requirements. First and foremost, a business would need to obtain the necessary permits from the City of Pleasanton. They also would not be otherwise eligible for grant funding from the Downtown Parklet Grant Program. And then the last 4 bullets here are similar to the Downtown Parklet Grant Program, where they need to be physically located in the city, possess an active city business license, be in good standing with the city, and in compliance with the county health order. And then lastly, an eating or drinking establishment. And then there are 3 situations where a business would not be eligible. And they're listed here. The one difference is the last bullet from the Downtown Parklet program. So we put this in, it's property owners who are not also the owner of the business. Because when you're looking at restaurants outside of the downtown, it's likely that an outdoor dining installation would occur on private property. And so that is where we've said that because this is a business assistance, part of our business assistance program, it is to help the business. And then here are similar eligible expenses for reimbursement. We didn't change this much from the Downtown Parklet Grant Program. These all have to be approved as part of the application process going through with the city permitting center. And then here where eligible expenses and non-eligible expenses are listed. And again, nothing too different from the Downtown Parklet program. And then in terms of process for the reimbursement of expenses, so item number 1 is really what I would stress is that after the business receives the necessary permits from the city to begin construction, then they would be eligible to apply for the grant program. And then the rest of the process is very similar to our previous grant program. We would have an online grant application. They would need to provide the documentation of expenses. And then we would have a city staff review, which we are anticipating would be about 10 business days, where we would follow up with the business, or they would hear of the process and status of their application within 10 business days, and then notification of approval. And so that's it in a nutshell. So we are looking for feedback from the EVC on the program, and I can leave the slides up if any of the EVC members would like me to go back to a particular slide.
Lisa, can you come bigger picture for me? It's just easier.
Yeah.
Seeing all yeah, we got lots of good hands already, so I like seeing that.
Do you want me to go stop sharing then?
Would you? I'm sorry.
Yeah,
would you just for a second? Thank you.
Sure.
Oh yeah, you all look much better when you're bigger than a quarter of an inch on my screen. Okay, so first I just want to, before I get into that, because we do not have anyone publicly attending today, Lisa, I assume that is still correct. We do not have any public comments on this matter. Is that correct?
That's correct.
All right, now we can go to the EVC. And Will, you're like quick on the draw. Go ahead.
Thank you. Good morning. Lisa, I would strongly suggest that we reverse the process. Asking someone to apply for the grant after you get the permits is very contra to, being of assistance and help to the small business owner. So my suggestion would be that you apply for the grant, and as part of that application, you get fast tracked through the permit process so that you are ready to go. Because if you go through the permit process and then you have to do an application process, and they're totally separated and there's no, kind of like conjoining the two there, it just makes it very difficult for a small business owner. So my suggestion would be, part of applying for the funds is that you start that permit process right away and you fast track them through as part of being in this program. And I think that will facilitate and also assist, the small business owner to get involved in this. Because if they got to go through the permit process first and then go for it, it just creates, a workflow that's not necessary and oftentimes is burdening to the business owner.
Thank you for that input, William. You want to save these up and address them one at a time or as a group?
Well, we can go ahead and, I'd have to double check because the permit process would involve our planning department as well as engineering, building. And so that's something that we would then need to consult with our other departments on that. I can see that where we could possibly implement a pre-approval. And then once they go through the permitting process, that is a model that exists with another city where they did sort of like a grant pre-approval. So that could be something that we consider, but I would need to go back to city staff and see how that could be applied.
Yeah, I think that helps the workflow and the process, and it also encourages people, that if I apply for the grant, then I'm concurrently going through the permit process and et cetera. And a lot of the business that are going to be applying for this have already had this kind of facility. I'm going to make an assumption that at least a portion of them over the last 2 years have already had something similar to this, that they've implemented in their business plan. So they've already been through that process in a way. But I think, making it all more integrated as opposed to step 1, step 2, step 3, by the time you get to step 4 and you're actually applying for the grant, who knows what money's going to be left.
It's an interesting concept. I like that, Will. Thank you. Steve Van Dorn.
Good morning, everybody. I just want to thank Lisa and Pamela for bringing this back and talking to the council about it. I'm glad to see we're seriously considering this. I think it'll be a great opportunity for non-downtown business restaurant owners to take advantage. I just had a couple of questions. One is the item 3, the bullet that you mentioned you added that was different. Can you just give me a scenario? Like, let's use Sunshine Saloon, for example. Since he owns that business, then he would be an appropriate business that could apply, correct? Is that what you're saying in essence?
That's correct. As long as the property owner is also the business owner.
Okay, so if it's someone that's leasing space, would they not be able to apply? I'm trying to figure out what the difference is there. And sorry, it's early.
No. So if a business is leasing a space and they go through the proper channels to get approved and they have their property owner's agreement to build a project, then that would be considered, and as long as they go through the city processes and there's that approval, then yes, as we've written the program.
Yeah. Steve, can I frame that for you
Please,
in a way that I think about it? So
Yeah.
the intent of this program for us is to incentivize the business owner, not the property owner.
got it.
That's why that distinction got made. This is a business support program, and that's the intent.
I appreciate that. I think that's awesome that you're doing it that way, because that's what it should do. And then the other question I had was communication to these business owners. How are they going to find out about this opportunity?
That's a great question, Steve. We haven't considered that yet, but we have various channels that we can get notice out to the businesses through our business newsletter. And we can also send out emails. We have a commercial business list for restaurants so that we could do direct email to all of our restaurants.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. And William and Steve, if you could go ahead and put your hands down. That way I know the next Steve that is coming up. Mr. McCoy Thompson.
It's the row of Steves. Yeah, I love the program. Just a question about the process. So if I'm hearing it correctly, as part of the application process, you submit your expenses, what your expenses will be for that parklet, which sort of implies that if you're planning to build out a parklet, the business has to incur those expenses up front and then wait for a month or two to get reimbursed. Is that correct? And I want to make sure that's the case, or if there's a way that they could submit the plans for it without actually submitting the expense receipts.
So as we've written it, it's a reimbursement of expenses. So they would incur the expenses, and then it would be reimbursed by the city. And that's how we set up the Downtown Parklet grant program as well.
Steve, part of the reason for our thinking on that was we didn't want to pre-fund people and then have them not build the improvement, right? So we needed to know the improvement was approved and installed before we reimburse them for that. So that's why the reimbursement. But as Lisa said, we have this really short turnaround time, and we say 10 days, but she was turning around the business loans in about a week. And then they go directly to finance for processing. So it will take a couple weeks, but it certainly will not take a couple months to get them reimbursed.
Okay, great. It makes sense. I just wanted to clarify.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thanks.
That's a good, important question to ask. Mr. Baker.
Yeah, I had a clarifying question on the downtown program. One of the things that was put in place is we wanted everything that was downtown to be removed so that we could do tree cleaning and maintenance. Is that an ongoing annual requirement? And do the business owners need to dismantle or remove their parklets every year in February?
Lise, you want to jump in, or you want me to take this one?
Yeah, could you take that one? I sort of have a sense, but you probably know for sure.
So what we told the downtown folks when they were thinking about parklets, Steve, was that they needed to build their parklet in such a way that they could clean under the parklet, right? So that we knew that stuff wasn't gathering under there and they had the ability. So whether that's how far it's off the ground or whether that's a panel that pulls out from the floor, just so that they could be able to get in there and clean. We also told them that there would likely be some period of weeks each year, potentially in February, that we would ask them to remove their furniture and not have any patrons on those parklets, knowing it was during a month where the weather may or may not be that great, because we needed to trim trees and potentially do some other maintenance downtown. So we didn't specifically say they had to be removed once a year. We said, you may not, we're going to set a time where we're going to ask you not to use them for a couple weeks so we can do all our annual maintenance. But we also acknowledge that there could be a time in the future where we do need those parklets removed. Let's say we have to do major maintenance on the street. Let's say we want to repave, or we have to dig up a water line. We have to account for those possibilities, but they were intended to be fewer and far between. Does that help?
Yeah, I mean, we didn't put any kind of rules or anything in place that we had to be able to put wheels on these things so they could be dragged away, or anything like that that would facilitate removing them annually, and either removing them or dismantling them.
Correct.
Okay. The other question that I had is, downtown is on public right-of-way land. This other program is on private property. Do we have different rules that would apply to exactly what you can do? And will there be some similar issues with the private property structures where they might need to be removed or dismantled at some point for maintenance related to the city, or other conditions that I have no idea what they might be?
Yeah. I think anything's possible, Steve, but it's a lot less likely. Remember, when it's public land, then we are responsible for taking care of it, versus when something is built on private property.
Right.
That's up to the private property owner. So I will say what you'll see is the difference in this program versus what you saw downtown. Downtown Parklet program was structured to have two options for businesses. They could either design their own Parklet, right, and then bring it to the city for review and approval, or they can use the standard Parklet that we are in the process of creating, right, that we fully vetted, done all the load calcs and all that. Because of the nature of these particular outside of downtown Parklets all being on private property, they're all going to have a unique set of circumstances, right, relative to the parking area that they're potentially impacting, or maybe they're going to offer to set this up in a planted area. So all of these Parklets that we're talking about today are going to go through our some sort of design review process with city staff. And so the answer to your question lies in that review process, right? Where are they asking for the Parklet to be put? What is the set of unique circumstances for that location? And then the city would work with the business owner to say, hey, we think we need, you're right next to a backflow device, right? We need to think about how we need to access that. Should we have to do maintenance on that device or access the device? Another one might be totally fine and we don't have as many requirements. So we're trying to be as flexible as we can and as expansive as we can, but it's a little bit of a different animal.
Okay. Thank you, Assistant City Manager. I appreciate that.
Thank you, Steve Baker.
Mr. O'Brien.
Sure, thank you. I noticed, at least I think, the downtown Parklet grant program allowed for retail establishments to be considered on a case-by-case basis. Any reason that they were excluded from the outdoor, well, I guess it is called the outdoor dining install grant, but I would think that there could be opportunities that a retail business would want to do the same thing. So I'm just kind of curious why they were excluded.
So in developing this program, we looked at, similar programs in other communities, and also the number of potential applicants that we would see that might take advantage of something like this. And we did find that it was majority restaurants. And so we felt that that was something that we wanted to bring forward. And then even in the downtown, it was as well for downtown Parklets, majority restaurants. So that's our reasoning for that. Did you have anything to add, Pamela?
No, I think you did a great job. Sorry.
Thank you.
Okay. I just wanted to get to Michael, who brought up a question a while back before Jack gets on. Michael said, is there a requirement for the business owner on the installation timeline? For example, do you need to complete construction within 1 month after approval? Is there a timeline on construction, Lisa?
We've not established that as part of the grant program. So that would be, based on the approval process. And I don't believe with our design review process, we have a timeline requirement.
Okay.
So
that is correct. I will say that, anytime somebody gets a building permit, they have expiration dates on that building permit. So it's not an indefinite approval if they don't choose to move forward. But I think we just didn't put a specific time frame on that, Michael, because we felt if someone was going to go through this process and be committed to building a parklet or building a structure, that they likely were invested and ready to move forward, and we didn't anticipate that there would be any delay outside of what we're hearing these days about supply chain issues that might.
Plus, you're giving a year to apply for the grant in the first place. Yeah, on that. Jack.
Yeah, thank you. Quick point of clarification is that the Parklets, at least on downtown, are not limited to restaurateurs only. There are retail establishments that may apply for a Parklet on the right of way. So just to point that out, it's available to all if they partake. Mm-hmm. Second point, I want to just maybe ask staff, for the downtown one, you're allowing reimbursement for potentially Parklets constructed in the past if they bring them back. I mean, I know we had a few nuances where they may not comply with the design guidelines, of course, now, but the concept is if someone's got something that is present today that complies, you might reach back a little bit as you look to draft these rules, right?
That is correct, council member. Our intention was to support businesses in the best way that we can. And we didn't necessarily write that into the program, but in our discussion with council about the downtown parklets, we did acknowledge that there were potentially some businesses that had invested, and if they could use much of what they created in the past and meet the current guidelines, then we would go back and include them in that process. And I think that same would be true for us here.
Best we can. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, just visitate. We just need to review what they've done and see how they meet today's criteria.
Thank you. Good point to be made. Kelly.
Yeah, this is just a quick clarifying question. I appreciate Council Member Jack Balch clarifying that it does include retail downtown. The discussion has been had that it really is referring to the private property. So downtown, does that mean that the parklets are not going to be in the street? I just want to clarify to make sure I'm understanding that correctly.
In downtown, as the program's been approved, the parklets are in the parking space in front of the business. So that's on the public right away. Outside of yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, if I may, within certain spots. So if I may really clarify, the nuance about the program for now versus the past is that Tasano and the crew went out and identified particular parking spots that are not going to be available for a parklet. They blocked stop signs. They were too close to a radius on a turn. So there are ample spots available for the 20 something that partook, but where they might be slightly off. And we realized as a council and staff that you've got to service it. So you can't have your parklet 2 blocks down the road. It doesn't make sense to, my iced tea will be melted by the time it gets there, right? So
no, that clarifies. And I just would like to articulate that this is, the direction of being very progressive moving forward. Having that downtown feel where residents can walk and congregate. And I really applaud the council taking a look at having, 1 weekend per month in the warm weather time season, and hope that it's prosperous so that it can be expanded. And I think this is a great direction because what we really want to do is engage our residents. So nothing else to really add, but I also do appreciate, I think it was Mr. Baker that highlighted the timing of the permits. I think that's really critical to make this as easy as possible for the application process. So anyway, thank you. Those are all my comments.
Thank you, Kelly. And Mr. Baker, you get one more chance.
Yeah, I had a follow-up question. If I've got space in front of my location that could be used as a parklet, and I don't necessarily want to use it, do I have the ability to lease that or sell it to a adjoining partner on either side of me or across the street? Is there, anything I can do to market that?
Okay, we're all smiling big time right now, Steve, because we're like, he's out there making money. That's good. Any answer to that one, Lisa?
Yeah, Lisa.
I'll let Pamela take it.
Yeah, Pam, go ahead.
Steve, it sounds like TDR, transfer of development rights. So we have not contemplated that people would necessarily sell that space. What we have said is, as a general rule, your parklet, downtown or otherwise, but particularly downtown, needs to be in front of your storefront, right? That's the limitation that you have, so you don't impinge on other businesses in downtown. But there is an allowance that says, if you want, given how parking spaces are laid out, they're not so neatly, divided in front of every storefront. So if there's an opportunity and you want to expand your parklet with the permission of the adjacent or neighboring tenant and the property owner, you are able to design or develop a parklet that could do that.
I think that Steve is suggesting a parklet derivatives program.
Yeah.
Well, I want to follow up on that with, it's kind of along the lines of an ABC license, which makes, having a property with that already. Would this parklet go with, if a business is, well, I guess it just stays with the landlord.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so this is a business landlord investment, if you will.
Well, so Yes, but remember, we're incentivizing the business, right? But if a business is going to go to the trouble, let's say there's a planted area in a shopping center and business X says, it's adjacent to my business storefront, and I think this is a great place to do this outdoor dining installation, right? They get the approval of their property owner. The business makes the investment, right? And that business operates that outdoor dining installation for 5 years and then decides they want to move to another location. They are likely not going to take that investment with them, right? It's theoretically, I mean, it could move because these are semi-permanent, but it's likely that that business is going to leave that there in that planted space. And so future tenants could take advantage of that.
Well, and then see the benefit of that. Absolutely.
Correct.
Thank you. Ellen.
Yeah, I love all these creative marketing ideas and all these things. And it led me to think about the surrounding areas like Livermore and Dublin and San Ramon. Do you know how they're handling their parklets? Especially Livermore probably is the most likely. Are they handling it the same way? They're giving the grants and doing that?
Livermore did a grant program early on in the pandemic, which included outdoor operations. I have to double check the details of that, but I believe the grant was lower and it wasn't necessarily for construction. Dublin just recently had opened up a grant program specifically for outdoor operations. It's closed now, but very similar to what we're proposing, up to $10,000 for temporary construction. And Dublin, because they're still developing their downtown, their program would be very similar to what we're proposing with this outdoor operations on private property. So, so that was who I was referring to in terms of an approval process. They're doing a pre-approval, then they have to go through the city's permitting process, and then they would get reimbursed. But it's also reimbursement, not a pre-funding of the project.
Okay, thank you. And then that leads to my second part of my question is the communication about all this. And that's why I was thinking about, we want to make sure that people come to Pleasanton and that they know that the restaurants are open. So is there a communications program as part of this to tell people, hey, this is what's happening, not for the restaurants, but for, you know, people who would participants?
Yeah,
we would part of the plan.
We haven't discussed it yet, but I think as soon as it's approved, and we would develop a communications plan using our newly hired communications manager to help to get the word out. And then using also our social media and our other email capabilities for sure.
Well, plus PDA is going to be getting that word out for the weekends and being able to show that and really draw to it.
Right, but what I hear from Ellen's comment, and I appreciate, is there are mechanisms to talk about all the great things and happening in downtown. We sometimes forget that we need to show as much attention to the other areas of downtown citywide, right, Ellen? If I'm putting words in your mouth, and I think she's making sure that we're doing an adequate job of promoting all of those folks as well.
That's right. We're talking about the rest of the city in addition to. Thank you, Ellen. And I just wanted to call upon my co-chair if you had any comments you wanted to make as we wrap this up for discussion.
I think we hit on a lot of the key points, and I'm glad that we were able to address everyone's concerns. It sounds like a lot of great questions to clarify and distinguish between the different programs. And I think that I just want to reiterate your point, Tracy, that, you know, this was something that was brought up at our last meeting. So I think it's just really shines a light on how important these conversations are, and a big shout out to Lisa and Pamela for taking action and doing that so quickly and putting something together so quickly. You know, so much goes into a program development like this. So thank you for reacting and hearing the feedback of the committee. It's very appreciated, and keep up the great work to the entire committee.
Thanks, Tiffany. See, I knew I was calling upon the right one right there. She's my positive side. And Daniel, Brian, and I was just seeing, didn't see any other hands up. Are we all good for this discussion at this point? that we can bring it back? Okay, all right, good. That was very good discussion.
So should I make a motion?
Why, Steve Van Dorn,
Tracy?
I would be happy to welcome a motion for this.
Well, I'll accept the staff's recommendation on the program for the areas outside of downtown, based on the report that we've discussed this morning.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Where was that?
Baker.
Steve Baker.
Thank you. Sorry. I
Can't
didn't
see my hand?
No, I didn't see that. Oh, great. We have a first and a second for as presented. And can we get a vote from everybody? How about all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Tracy?
Yes,
Tracy, I'm
ma'am.
sorry. Could I trouble you? Since we're virtual, a roll call vote would be really helpful.
Sure.
Us just to be super clear. Thank you.
No. And we don't have a huge group, so this won't take long. And we also have plenty of time today. So Lisa, why don't you go ahead with the roll call vote based upon
Okay,
the motion.
All righty, I'll go ahead, call your name. I'll call the name and say aye if you agree with the motion. Brian Wilson,
Aye.
Daniel Watson,
Aye.
Ellen Pensky,
Aye.
Councilmember Balch,
Aye.
Trustee Kelly McCaughey,
Aye.
Michael Lee,
Hang on, just hang on.
He spoke, but we didn't hear you, Michael.
oh, there,
Just
Oh.
10 seconds.
Hear me now? Aye.
yes,
Come on.
thank you.
There's
I think
Roderick
Sharif, you
O'Brien?
might want to mute. Sorry, Sharif,
Aye.
you're unmuted.
Yeah. Aye.
Roderick
Aye.
O'Brien, sorry, I didn't hear you.
Aye.
Ruth Madavi said aye. Steve Baker,
Aye.
Steve McCoy Thompson,
Aye.
Steve Van Dorn,
Aye.
Tiffany Cadret,
Aye.
Tracy Farhad,
Aye.
Will Dorlick.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Great.
unanimously.
Thanks, Tracy.
Thank you, and nice presentation, Lisa, on all that, very thorough. I was making all sorts of notes. Yeah, was there another
May
point
I-
you wanted to make?
Yeah, I wanted to ask a question. I was thinking about this earlier. So now that we've approved this, then what does that really mean? Does it, you go to the council and you say the EBC agrees with this, and that, does that give certain weight? Or maybe you guys could clarify what kind of what that means.
Absolutely, Ellen. So yes, we will be bringing the EBC's recommendation on the program to the city council. The city council has to approve it so that they can allocate the funds for the grant program. And so, as I mentioned during the presentation, we will be going to council in March 15th.
Right, that part I understood, but is it, I mean, if we had said no, you know, or what is it? Does it bring a lot of weight when it's when we're behind it and they say, okay, if the EBC said no, then we better look at something else, or kind of how does that work? I mean, I understand the logistics part of it, but it's just
Yeah,
kind
so
of
Ellen,
what
I
does that
can't, you
mean?
know, I wouldn't presume to speak for the council, but the whole reason that we have these advisory committees is so that we can get the best input we can when the council makes its decision. So yes, it is very important to the council that they hear from the EBC and or any other committee about what they think about staff's ideas or any other ideas that you have, which is why when you see in the minutes, we really try and capture those comments from the committee. So it does make a difference in the council's decision making.
I believe Councilmember Balch would like to respond to that.
I would, but I know to be careful because I know how this works. But I will just mention, please never lose faith in what the work you do here or any other council or commission for any other body. And specifically for Pleasanton, I started 13 years ago on Park and Rec. I got to work with Mr. Fulford at the time, and he talked about an active citizenry of Pleasanton. And it is a passion to hear and see each of you get up at 7:30 to do this, to give input, because no one person or one group of people can think of all ideas. So as Mr. Baker would like to monetize his Parklet, we need everyone's input. And so I just would encourage you never to lose the faith, even if it's a little cloudy along the way, because people are watching and people love ideas from all areas. And frankly, thank goodness we've got you guys working for Pleasanton. So thank you.
Thank you for that comment. All right. I think that takes us to the next part on our agenda. And not too much more to go, but I want to see if we, so Lisa, to receive the economic development information updates, anything new on that?
Nothing to add.
Okay, just make sure everybody keeps reading before, with all those great agendas and full packet information before the meetings. It has, you'd be surprised, your name might be in there. So it's good to be able to check it out and see if it's what it should be. So next, we just want to bring up any other matters that to be initiated by you. This, Ellen, is the moment, you know, when we can bring that back up. I know, for example, Steve Van Dorn had a question of us, of Lisa and Pam earlier about previous ideas that have come up. And so I think it's important that we keep bringing them up and also seeing when we might be able to add that to a future agenda, if there is consensus that it is a subject worthy of bringing up with the group. So any other matters that the group would like to bring up today? Oh, Brian, I knew I was going to get you to speak, Brian.
Yeah,
you
got it. I want to go back to something earlier when Councilmember Walsh was talking about the weekends on Main, and he mentioned something that City Council was considering, and he said we had to consider realities on the ground, I believe he said. And I just kind of want to understand those realities a little bit, or can you explain those realities that you're talking about, Councilmember?
Yeah, so sorry, everyone probably knows that the PDA is going through challenges. They're with an interim director right now. And so we have some problems with their staffing or challenges, right? Because they're trying to fill that role. And then at the same time, there's a debate, a conversation about whether the space should be programmed by PDA or whether weekends on Main need to be programmed, or, you know, can it just be provided as a space, a canvas, as the former director mentioned, right? And so that conversation has not yet completed out, right? So one main reality is the PDA has insufficient funding because they weren't able to hold all of their programs over the past couple of years. So the council did do a cash infusion. They have staffing challenges, as we've heard, in the economy overall. And then we really are trying to find the balance between the retailers and the restaurant groups. Yep. And, you know, I don't want to describe it as a civil war, but we don't want it to be, right? So proceeding cautiously and proceeding. So I did describe it, you know, and I try to not say my personal opinion, please watch the meeting, but I did describe it as the pendulum may have come back a little, but it's, you know, we have to go together, right? And so one of the overarching comments by the council was we cannot have restaurants only downtown. We have to have a holistic business community in our downtown. And how do we do that? The path is not necessarily very clear, right? So this is the path that the council's chosen with advice and great recommendations from staff. And I think that's where we're nervous, and we're not through COVID, right? I mean, we're seeing the ends, but all of those come up to the sausage making, unfortunately.
Okay.
Brian, if I may, I would also offer too that one of the comments I made at the council meeting for the council's consideration was there are pockets of residents in downtown, right there, and they live downtown in the core, and some of them have ingress and egress out the backside, either Peters, right, or Railroad. Some of them, their primary access to their residence is Main Street. Right. So when we close the street every single week for X number of weeks, those folks were told that they could not get their car or whatever, right? They couldn't access their residence by vehicle for the entirety of the weekend. It became challenging for many of them, right? And so just one more input that the council had to consider among all the things that Council Member Balch offered.
Okay, good to know. Thank you both for that. I was just kind of wanted to understand that a little bit more, but thank you.
Any other subjects anybody wanted to bring up at this particular point for future consideration?
Well,
Ellen,
I had
speaking. Go ahead, Ellen.
Okay. Well, I just had a question. I want to know how Steve Baker saved the chamber. What?
Ellen, that's going to take a long time to talk about. So we should need to have that over a drink at Cellar Door. Okay.
There you go.
All I know is I now can call him Mr. Calculator. So now I,
Yeah.
Well, I was just thinking when Jack just talked about PDA having challenges, and I thought maybe Steve Baker needs to help the PDA.
There you go.
I don't think we're going to lose him. He's going to stick around for a while. Kelly, I see your hand up.
Yeah, so this is just really an open-ended request to, as we move into springtime, maybe a great opportunity to help kick off springtime, warm weather, summer opportunities for our youth and young adults into whether it be the workforce opportunity realm or ways to get them to engage further into the community. So I know there's a lot of different initiatives that we've highlighted in the past. But I think it would be a great opportunity if we could kind of have an agenda item where we really kind of centralize some of the efforts and or with collaboration with the district. You know, I'm just thinking of our youth and how we're still trying to adjust to the new life of normalcy with COVID. COVID is not over, certainly by any means. But so it's just really more of an open-ended request to maybe kind of circle back because it has come up in various contexts and discussions.
Thank you, Kelly. Yes,
I'm gonna add-
springtime. You wouldn't know it's February right now. I know it's pretty hard. Lisa?
Tracy, yeah,
Almost March. Almost March.
I just wanted to mention, just in response to Board Trustee McClatchy's comment, I do want to mention that the city is hosting, Pamela's smiling, Youth in Government Day, which is on March 31st. It's a Thursday, and it's a day-long event where we invite youth to come in and experience what it means or what it is to work in the public sector. So we will be, Pamela, you might be able to add into how we choose the youth or how the students participate. But we will be doing that, and I'll be hosting a couple students here in city offices as well as my colleagues. So just want to mention that day is coming, and we're bringing it back because we weren't able to do it. I think it was partially virtual last year. So
Awesome. And that's to my point. And I appreciate that. It's really about kind of showcasing some of the things that we're working to do to support our youth. So thank you.
And I see one more from Mr. McCoy Thompson.
Just to piggyback on that, one is that PPIE would be happy to get the word out on the Youth in Government program. So just let us know. And then if it's okay, I'd like to pitch a PPIE program, and you just cut me off if it's not appropriate. This is a volunteer request. For the past several years, we've been inviting people to do mock interviews with high school students, and it's been honestly outstanding. Steve Van Dorn's participated. We do it with Foothill High School students. They're really great. And if it's okay, I'd like to send an email to you, Lisa.Maybe you can send it out to the members of this committee. I think it'd be great if you could, spend some time going to the Foothill campus. It'll be on March 30th and 31st, ironically. But we'd love to have you consider. Is that okay?
Thank you, Steve.
Great. Okay. Thank you.
I'm going to finish up today so early that you all will have a chance for coffee and everything else before your 9 o'clock. You can even actually get out of your home offices, which is where I am, and make a 9 o'clock meeting. But just had to finish up by saying, yes, it's restaurant week. And I wanted to give you a little enthusiasm on that. We have 10 Pleasanton restaurants out of 33, and that's across the 4 communities in the Tri-Valley. So we have 33 restaurants. We have 8 wineries, 2 breweries, and a partridge. And we have 2 special events. The kickoff is tonight. Is this Thursday? Wow. The kickoff is tonight at Sabio on Main. It's sold out. So if you didn't get your tickets, too bad. So I love seeing 91 tickets sold for the Sabio on Main kickoff chef collaboration. 4 chefs. So from around the Tri-Valley, pairing with wines to benefit, and I'm going to get this wrong because I mix them up, either Culinary Angels or Open Heart Kitchen. But we're doing for both of those guys for feeding, which is a good thing. But we still have seatings available for a great event next Wednesday, another Pleasanton business. So Bottle Taps and McGrail are pairing up to see which goes better with food, beer, or wine. So check that out. And otherwise, take your youth. I'm getting my kid out. I'm going to take them out. Get out there for lunches and dinners all across the Tri-Valley until the 27th of February. And that's Restaurant Week. We'll get everybody outside enjoying this gorgeous weather before the rain shows up in March. So thanks everyone for today. Thank you, Pamela and Lisa. And of course, the effervescent Mr. Jack Balch. We love your presentations. Keep them coming. And thank you everyone for weighing in. We'll see you next time. Okay.
Thanks, Tracy.
Thanks,
Have a good
Thank
one.
you, everybody.
Everybody, thank you.
Thank you.
Great to see you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.